Kenya will be the next Singapore. Only tough decisions will get us to the Singapore League. If our leaders worked as hard as our citizens, we'd be the Singapore of Africa. If Singapore made it to the first world, we too can make it. We've heard these lines time and again from our leaders. Apparently, they want Kenya to be like Singapore. Okay then, let's compare. First, the hard numbers. In 2024, Kenya's GDP per capita was about $2,206. Singapore's was roughly $88,500. That's around 40 times higher. Population? Kenya is a nation of 53 to 54 million. Singapore is just over 6 million. Size didn't save us, but smallness didn't limit them. On debt, we strain to service our loans. But while Singapore owes much more on paper, they hold state assets and savings to back it up. How about income from work? Well, the typical full-time worker in Singapore took home a median of about $5,500 a month in 2024. That's about 710,000 Kenya shillings. Here in Kenya, official data shows average earnings are 10 times less, at about 74,000 shillings a month, with entry-level jobs being at an average 30,000 a month. Many more Kenyans are still waiting for their first payslip. How about education and skills? Singapore topped the latest PISA rankings. That's a global assessment of 15-year-olds from different countries to gauge their knowledge and understanding of math, science, and reading. Kenya is not even ranked by PISA. So just how did Singapore do it? Well, they certainly didn't just talk their way into prosperity. They built clean, predictable institutions. Let me explain. Fiscal honesty before fiscal heroics. A credible medium-term plan that matches revenue to realistic spending. Ring-fencing development outlays from the daily political seasons. They also formulated industrial policy that picks problems, not pet projects. That picks the bottlenecks such as power costs, logistics, port clearance, standards, and removes them with deadlines. They basically make exports boringly reliable. They have schools that teach for the economy we actually want. Formal jobs, not formal slogans. They cut the costs of formality. That's e-registration, one-stop tax and compliance. They reward farms that grow payrolls, exports and training hours, not those that can afford the longest motorcades. And on anti-corruption, that is done administratively, not acrimoniously. Digital tenders by default, public contracts and beneficial ownership online. Penalties that arrive swiftly enough to deter the next deal. Singapore has cities that cut friction, minutes saved from port to factory to airport. If a permit takes weeks here in Kenya, it takes just hours there. And now allow me permission to be blunt. None of what they have done was developed by speeches. You see, we can't talk our way to progress. We have to work through it. If words alone were enough, we've talked much more than Singapore ever has. So what's the point of departure? Singapore chose competence over clientelism, measurement over megalomania, and discipline over drama. It chose to count, then to do. We choose too often to announce. Economies do not transform by rhetoric. They transform when the boring things get done, on time, on budget, without kickbacks, so often that it becomes culture. So, while we endlessly promise, proclaim, predict, Singapore chose consistency, competence, and consequence, while we choose, too often, announcements. So I hope we can settle this debate once and for all. No, Kenya is not like Singapore. That's my take.